Hare Krishna, myself Hridya Vaspate, and today I am going to read from the book Krsna Consciousness, the Matchless Gift. Chapter 1, Spiritual Knowledge through Krishna. The aim of this Krsna Consciousness movement is to bring all living entities back to their original consciousness. All living entities within the material world are to varying degrees afflicted with a type of madness. This Krishna consciousness movement aims at curing man of his material disease and re-establishing his original consciousness. In a Bengali poem, a great Vaishnava poet has written, "When a man is haunted by ghosts, he can only speak nonsense." Similarly, anyone who is under the influence of material nature should be considered haunted, and whatever he speaks should be considered nonsense. One may be considered a great philosopher or a great scientist, but if he is haunted by the ghost of Maya illusion, whatever he theorizes and whatever he speaks is more or less nonsensical. Today we are given the example of a psychiatrist who, when requested to examine a murderer, proclaimed that since all the patients with whom he had come in contact were more or less crazy, the court could excuse the murderer on those grounds if it so desired. The point is that in the material world it is very difficult to find a sane living entity. The prevailing atmosphere of insanity in this world is all caused by the infection of material consciousness. The purpose of this Hare Krishna movement is to bring man back to his original consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness, clear consciousness. When the water falls from the clouds, it is uncontaminated like distilled water, but as soon as it touches the ground, it becomes muddy and discolored. Similarly, we are originally pure spirit soul, part and parcel of Lord Krishna, and therefore our original constitutional position is as pure as God's. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "Mama vansho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manashashtani indriyani prakritisthani karshati." The living entities in this conditional world are my fragmental parts, and they are eternal. But due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Thus, all living entities are part and parcel of Lord Krishna. By Krishna, it should always be remembered that we are speaking of God Krishna, denoting the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. As a fragment of gold is qualitatively the same as a gold reservoir. So, the minute particles of Krishna's body are therefore qualitatively as good as Krishna. The chemical position of God's body and the eternal spiritual body of the living entity is the same spiritual. Thus, originally in our uncontaminated condition, we possessed a form as good as God's, but just as rain falls to the ground, so we come in contact with this material world, which is manipulated by the external and material energy of Krishna. When we speak of eternal energy or material nature, the question may be raised: whose energy, whose nature, material energy or nature, is not active independently? Such a concept is foolish. In Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that material nature does not work independently. When a foolish man sees a machine, he may think that it is working automatically, but actually it is not. There is a driver, someone in control. Although we sometimes cannot see the controller behind the machine due to our defective vision. There are many electronic mechanisms which work very wonderfully, but behind these intricate systems there is a scientist who pushes the button. This is very simple to understand. Since a machine is matter, it cannot work on its own accord, but must work under spiritual direction. A tape recorder works, but it works according to the plans and under the direction of a living entity, a human being. The machine is complete, but unless it is manipulated by a spirit soul, it cannot work. Similarly, we should understand that this cosmic manifestation, which is called nature, is a great machine, and that behind this machine there is God Krishna. This is also affirmed in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, and producing all the moving and unmoving beings, and by its root this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. There are two kinds of entities: the moving, such as human beings, animals, and insects, and non-moving, such as trees and mountains. Krishna says that material nature, which controls both kinds of entities, is acting under his direction. Thus, behind everything, there is a supreme controller. Modern civilization does not understand this due to lack of knowledge. It is the purpose of this society of Krishna consciousness, therefore, to enlighten all people who have been maddened by the influence of the three modes of material nature. In other words, our aim is to awaken mankind to its normal condition. There are many universities, especially in the United States, and many departments of knowledge, but they are not discussing these points. Where is the department of this knowledge? What we find given by Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. When I spoke before students and some members at the MIT, the first question was raised: where is the technological department which is investigating the difference between a dead man and a living man? When a man dies, something is lost. Where is the technology to replace it? Why don't scientists try to solve this problem? Because this is a very difficult subject matter, they set it aside and busily engage in the technology of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. However, Vedic literatures inform us that this is animal technology. Animals are also trying their best to eat well, to have an enjoyable sex life, to sleep peacefully, and to defend themselves. What then is the difference between man's knowledge and animals' knowledge? The fact is that man's knowledge should be developed to explore that difference between a living man and a dead man, a living body and a dead body. That spiritual knowledge is imparted by Krishna to Arjuna in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Being a friend of Krishna's, Arjuna was a very intelligent man, but his knowledge was all men's, was limited. Krishna spoke, however, of subject matters which were beyond Arjuna's finite knowledge. These subjects are called adhokshaja because our direct perception by which we acquire material knowledge fails to approach them. For example, we have many powerful microscopes to see what we cannot see with our limited vision. But there is no microscope that can show us the soul within the body. Nevertheless, the soul is there. Bhagavad Gita informs us that in this body there is a proprietor. I am the proprietor, and others are the proprietors of their bodies. I say my hand, but not I hand. Since it is my hand, I am different from the hand being its owner. Similarly, we speak of my eye, my leg, my this, my that. In the midst of all of these objects which belong to me, where am I? The search for the answer to this question is the process of meditation. In real meditation, we ask, where am I? What am I? We cannot find the answers to these questions by any material effort, and because of this, all the universities are setting these questions aside. They say it is too difficult subject, or they brush it aside. It is irrelevant. Thus, engineers direct their attention to creating and attempting to perfect the horseless carriage and windless bird. Formerly, horses were drawing carriages and there was no air pollution. But now there are cars and rockets, and the scientists are very proud. We have invented horseless carriages, and wingless birds.